In my experience, probably 90% of the buying decision is determined by about 10% of the product features. It is up to you to find the hot button, the key benefit of your offering that is what the prospect wants more than anything else. You then push this hot button over and over again. Every time you mention the hot button, the prospect's desire to own your product or service goes up. Every time you talk about something that is not really important to him, his desire to purchase it goes down. Good salespeople are those who question skillfully and then listen carefully to the answers. They listen for what is called the Freudian slip. The Freudian slip concept says that if you ask enough questions and give prospects enough opportunity to talk, they will tell you everything that you need to know to make the sale. That's why the old saying, "Telling is not selling," is true. You are only really selling when you are asking questions and giving them the opportunity to tell you what they're looking for, what they want, what they need, what they're concerned about, what their worries are. You're only really selling when you are listening attentively. The more you ask questions and listen, the more likely it is that the prospect will say, "This is what I'm looking for. This is the key benefit." There's a key benefit for every product or service that a prospect must be assured of receiving before he can buy. Until he hears or sees that key benefit, he won't make the buying decision. One of my favorite stories is about a real estate agent who takes a couple to see a home for sale. It's an old house. It's what they call a starter home, a pre-owned starter home, one that requires lots of work, a handyman special. The real estate salesman and the couple pull up to the house. In the backyard, there is a beautiful flowering cherry tree. And the salesman asks the couple, "What do you think of this house?" The wife says, "Harry, look at that beautiful flowering cherry tree. Ever since I was a girl, I wanted to have a house with a beautiful flowering cherry tree in the backyard." And Harry says, "Shut up." You know how Harry is. He always says, "Shut up." They get out of the car and go into the house. The salesman is no dummy. He walks in behind them. Harry, Mr. Tough Guy, comes in and immediately says, "Look at this, you'll have to replace the steps." The salesman says, "Yes, but look at that beautiful flowering cherry tree out in the yard." They walk into the house and Harry says, "The carpet's worn out, it'll have to be replaced." "Yes," the salesman says, "but from here you can see that beautiful flowering cherry tree, Mrs. Smith." As they walk through the house, they say, "Look at this living room. They will have to put in new baseboards and new lights." "Yes, but look at the beautiful view you have of that lovely flowering cherry tree from this room." This happens with almost every room they go into. "The kitchen needs new plumbing." "Yes, but you can see that beautiful flowering cherry tree out the window." "The bedrooms are too small." "Yes, but look at that view of the beautiful flowering cherry tree from the bedroom." At the end of the presentation, Mrs. Smith, who makes the buying decision in every home purchase, says, "Harry, I sure do love that beautiful flowering cherry tree." This was the hot button, and they eventually bought the house because of that flowering cherry tree. Your job is to discover and then push the hot button over and over again. What amazes me is that salespeople will go out and talk, but will not ask enough questions to find out the prospect's hot button. The prospect will say, "I'm really interested in a house with a pool." The salesperson will say, "Isn't this a beautiful yard?" "Yes, but it doesn't have a pool in it." "Here's a beautiful house. You could put a tennis court over there." "Yes, but it doesn't have a pool." "This house has a wonderful basement." "Yes, but it doesn't have a pool." The prospect keeps saying, "What I want is a pool." As a professional, you listen for that hot button and you build your selling efforts around that. Until you know the hot button, it's almost impossible for you to make the sale.